This is really not going to make it any easier for parents. What's the plan?
That's right. I mean, we have to put this into perspective as well. Hong Kong has fared through this coronavirus outbreak fairly well compared to other places. We have to keep that in mind. 6,238 cases to date, just 109 deaths. However, this is already the so-called fourth wave of infections for this city. In fact, the ratio is quite low. It's just 81 infections out of every 100,000 people in a city, a very densely packed city of more than 7 million. However, the government is coming under increased criticism from business owners and residents and parents, of course, for their perceived ad hoc approach to virus response. There were 115 new cases on Sunday, so we're now into triple digits on a daily basis. We were getting about 80 each day in the last part of last week, and then they were adding more restrictions like closing of bars and nightclubs. However, the criticism stems from this ad hoc approach that businesses say they can't plan long term because of, every Friday it seems like there's a new restriction based on a surge of cases. They're calling for more of a structured response system instead of what they are calling a suppress and lift approach. That's what the government calls it, suppress and lift. But they want more of a structured response system like in Singapore, like in New Zealand, like in South Korea. So here we go again. Schools are going to be closed. All face-to-face classrooms will be closed as of Wednesday for kindergarten, primary, and secondary schools through the rest of this year.
You mentioned South Korea. They're in the middle of a third wave of infections. What are we seeing in terms of the cases as well as any further measures?
Again, this is another city, or another country, I should say, Seoul in particular, the city, the capital, that has fared fairly well through this pandemic. However, we are into a third phase of infections, and the government has added this tiered system of response. Right now, they're at level 2, which they raised late last week or within the last week. Now they're talking about the areas outside of Seoul being lifted to an alert level of 1.5. Seoul is at 2 on a level of 3, a scale of 3. So that means there's social distancing requirements at restaurants, theaters, and the like. Restaurants cannot serve customers after 9 p.m. Outside of Seoul, as I said, 1.5. They will prohibit eating and dancing in high-risk facilities, and social distancing in restaurants and theaters will be enforced. But again, this is a country with 33,000 cases and a relatively low proportion of deaths, 523. However, new daily infections has climbed by more than 400 for the past 4 consecutive days. So authorities, obviously, as we are now into the winter season there in South Korea, they're worried about an even larger spike, so they're taking preemptive moves.